call the order to meeting. Started out a bad start there. I would now like to call to order the meeting of the Maricopa Community College District Governing Board for June 27th, 2017. The first item on the public hearing agenda is item number 1, a hearing concerning the adoption of the proposed budget of the Gateway Early College High School budget for fiscal year 2017 to 2018. This hearing is required under state law. The purpose of the hearing is to give any resident or taxpayer the opportunity to protest the inclusion of any item in the proposed budget. But first, I'm going to ask Ms. Murphy and her staff to explain on behalf of the governing board the proposed budgets.
Thank you, Mr. Hendricks, board members. I have Lisa Smith and Keith Brown, who are the principals of our 2 charter schools. They have a very brief presentation for you and for members of the public this evening. If they can provide that information. Thank you.
Good evening, President Hendricks, members of the board, members of the CEC, and Chancellor Harper-Marinick. I'm Lisa Smith. I'm the principal of Gateway Early College High School, and this is a presentation of our budget for the 17-18 school year. Excuse me. Nothing's really changed as far as our enrollment in ADM this year. State-based funding per student did go up just a little bit. Our additional assistance per student also went up. The small school money that is given to districts that are very small was cut because of the rules about having the same governing board. Went down significantly this year. So that's the maximum they can cut, and that will continue for the years to come. Our Prop 301 per student, which is a tax that's put on sales, went up because sales tax income went up for the state. So you can see that our base funding went up, our additional assistance went up, our Prop 123 amount went up slightly because of our attendance. That's the additional money that was passed last year for teacher raises, and all of that money does go to teacher raises. So the total state equalization, they call it, went up just slightly. Prop 301, just the same thing, went up. Our instructional improvement, and what that is that's the tax that comes from Indian gaming. Okay. Our state total went up, and our Title I will stay the same. Our Title I budget, this is an estimate at this point because the federal budget has to pass before we get our actual Title I. And so our total budget is $2,191,000. Again, that's based on a student enrollment of about 267 with an ADM of 255. ADM is the number of students that we have based on their attendance. So each day a student doesn't show up, is absent for illness or any other reason, we do not get paid for that. The state also passed in their state budget a 1.06% increase in teacher salary. Our salary scale for new incoming teachers won't change. They won't move in steps. And that budget also does include $100,000 in college tuition and about $50,000 in college textbooks. What's not on there is also the in-kind that Maricopa Community Colleges gives us from free rent. That's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I move to adopt the Gateway Early College High School budget for 2017-18.
We need to have public comments first. All right. Public comments first. At this time, will afford any resident or taxpayer the opportunity to address the governing board concerning the proposed action. Seeing none, any comments from board members? Ms. Livingston.
I just wanted, where'd you go? Where'd you go? Wherever you went, you can hear my voice. I just wanted to thank you for using the 1, 2, 3 money, all for teacher raises, or salary, going into the teacher salaries for raises. Thank you very much.
I believe that was the intent of the law, so.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board? That now concludes the public hearing for the adoption of the proposed budget of the Gateway Early College High School for fiscal year 2017-2018. The second item on this agenda is item number 2, a public hearing concerning the adoption of the proposed budget of the Phoenix College Preparatory Academy budget for fiscal year 2017-18. This hearing is required under state law. The purpose of the hearing is to give any resident or taxpayer the opportunity to protest the inclusion of any item in the proposed budget. First, I'm going to ask Ms. Murphy and her staff to explain on behalf of the governing board the proposed budget.
Thank you, President Hendricks, members of the board, CEC. I've asked Keith Brown, who is the principal, to provide information on the Phoenix Prep Academy budget. The vote for the budget itself will come during the regular meeting. So this is just for the public hearing for legal purposes.
Thank you. Please proceed.
President Hendricks, board members, CEC members, and Chancellor Harper-Marinick. My name is Keith Brown, and I am the principal at Phoenix College Prep Academy. I thank you for the opportunity to share with you about our budget. Our budget this year has gone up quite a bit, probably about 30%, because of an increase in enrollment. Last year's, am I supposed to hit something here? Okay. Currently, we have 170 students enrolled. Our ADM that we're projecting is at 160. Last year, our budget was based on 135. We are going to the charter board August 14th to get our cap increased to 215 for future years. We did have an increase that the state for teacher salaries. We are fully staffed. We do have 10 special education students, and 94% of our students are on free and reduced lunch. As I said, this year our budget is based on 160 students. Our state funding has gone up, and our Prop 301 funding has gone up as well. Basically, each of the areas estimated a little bit for Prop 123. Our state equalization, our Prop 301 funds have gone up based on our student enrollment. We are waiting again for federal funds. We expect them actually to be a little bit more in terms of Title I, but our overall budget is $1,331,211. Any questions?
At this time, I will afford any resident or taxpayer the opportunity to address the governing board considering the proposed action under consideration. Any comments from the board? Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
That now concludes the public hearing for the adoption of the proposed budget of the Phoenix College Preparatory Academy for fiscal year 2017-18. Final adoption of these two budgets will take place during the business portion of the regular board meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
Public hearing is adjourned. Good evening again. I would now like to call to order the meeting of the Maricopa County Community College District Governing Board for June 27th, 2017. Dr. Thor, would you please lead the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As this is my first governing board meeting as board president, I'd like to offer some brief remarks. I want to thank the staff members that helped to write this script that I'm not going to read. Please don't take any offense and don't think that I'm not using it because I don't appreciate what you have done or the comments that you've written on my behalf. They're probably better than the extemporaneous comments that I will make, but I'm going to wing it as best I can. Right before the meeting, I walked downstairs to the first floor to see the overflow room, see who was there. I was cautioned, but I went down and visited, and I was very pleased to see the participation of the young people that we saw in the overflow room and in the hallways and here in this room. It's just invigorating to see youth involved. I'm sure, based on my own experience, I was elected to office in high school and again in college and several times since then. And I'm sure some of you are here with specific ideas and specific thoughts and specific intentions. Some of you are probably here because somebody told you to come. And some of you probably don't know why you're here. And I fit into all of those categories at some time in my life. And so I can relate somewhat to each of you, and I'm glad you're here. These aren't the comments I'd intended to make, but since there's a group of young people here, and you have to listen to me if you want to get to things you want to hear about, I want to encourage you all to be active through your lives, just as you are tonight. And regardless what your thoughts are, your opinions are, they're important to express them and to get them out there. And I'd also like to encourage all of you to run for public office, run for any sort of office. Run for your HOA president when you buy your first house. Run for city council. Don't look up here at the dais and think people up here are different than you are. I've held office more times than most people, and I can tell you the day that I got elected, the day before that, people referred to me as you and him and all sorts of things, and the day after I was Mr. Hendricks. The last time I lost my election, I was Mr. Hendricks. The day I lost my election, and the next day nobody called me at all. And I say that because you may not think about this today, and I'm not talking just to the young people, I'm talking to everyone that's here. And I've given this same talk to some of the presidents that are here when I've invited to speak at their colleges. I would tell you, don't look up here as though we're something different than you. Everyone up here is up here because we got elected. We're not necessarily up here because of our accomplishments or because of our knowledge or because of our success. We're here because we got enough people to vote for us to elect us. And that's all it takes for most offices. And that's the same thing in Congress and the legislature and the school board and the city council. You don't have to be different than anybody else. You only have to get elected. So that's my first non-scripted comments. I hope those went okay. Now some comments to everyone as a new president trying to struggle through this first meeting with a good attendance. And hopefully I'll bumble through it and not embarrass too many people. When I was elected to the board, one of the comments that I've had repeatedly to fellow board members and to much of the administration is that of all the offices I've sat in, going all the way back to high school, the meetings have always been civil, respectful to each other. I've never heard disparaging comments towards others in a meeting. And in the meetings that I've sat in here, many times I've heard those sorts of things, and I know that's part of politics, that disparaging or disagreeing with the government isn't necessarily a bad thing. But to disparage or malign individual people or to describe those people by their positions they hold, I personally find unacceptable. And I'm hopeful that we can change that. I'm hopeful that our meetings can show civil discourse, that we can show some decorum, that we can show some professionalism, that when people watch us or attend our meetings, I hope they will look at us with respect and want to emulate what we're doing in their lives. And so rather than talk about education or CTE programs or great things I'd like to accomplish relative to the district, my number one goal as the president is I would like to establish decorum in the meetings and respect for each other and consideration. I'd like to try to unite the board, perhaps not in philosophy, but perhaps so we can have civil, friendly conversation with one another. And I say that to everyone. I really hope that we can speak with respect for each other. We can have cordial disagreement. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't make either of us wrong. We can both be right in our own opinions with different thoughts in different directions. A first step in that direction, I'd like to introduce to the Maricopa community Mr. Tim Lasota, sitting to my right. Tim will serve this board as our parliamentarian at public meetings for a while until the board and others get used to a set of rules of order for the meetings. He will ensure we adhere to the rules of order that I hope that the board will adopt shortly. He brings with him an extensive and impressive background in government practice and working with public sector entities on matters related to open meetings laws. And again, I want to thank the people that put together the script that I didn't read. Please don't take it as any disrespect or any lesson in value of the work that you did. I appreciate what you did, but with the audience here tonight, I want every opportunity to talk to young people and encourage them to spend their lives being activists and being active in their governments and their politics. Did you want to say a few words, Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Tim Lasota, and members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you and to serve as board parliamentarian. And I did want to just say a few words about why I think we're going to adopt some rules of procedure. And in my experience, they've been very useful to enhancing the deliberative process. Obviously, that's what this is all about here. We want a forum in which these things can be hashed out. It's not always pretty, but we think that the product that results as the body comes together, discusses, sometimes in a very lively manner, issues of public importance, we think we produce a better product. And rules, if they're properly put together, can help us achieve that. Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure is the best for a body such as this because it is specifically geared towards public bodies. Some of the things in there are not necessarily applicable to a board like this, but to the extent they are, it is a very good, workable, clear set of rules to go by in my experience. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, thank you, Mr. Lasota. Okay, substitutions tonight. Donna Young for Dr. Jan Gaylor. Todd Simmons for Dr. Chris Bustamante. Herman Gonzalez for Dr. Paul Dale. Heather Weber for Ernie Lara. Okay. The next item on the agenda is adoption of Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure. Motion?
So move.
Give me a second, Teresa.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm really not one for detailed rules. I think I'm the longest serving member of the board, and in my 7 years, I've really not found it necessary to rely on anything but what we have in board policy. And a change like this, in my mind, does require board policy change. So just want to be fair about the fact that I'm probably not going to support this.
Mr. Chairman. Ms. Livingston?
I, for one, feel that rules are something that we all have to abide by and live with. And I feel if the board, under the structure of the Masons rules of conduct, brings us to a more cohesive process and also does the work of the board in a more expedient manner, heeding each other's individualities, I feel this is something we should go forward with.
Mr. Gutierrez.
Mr. Chairman, I have no problem with the Masons. I operated in the Masons for 16 years and am exceedingly familiar with all of the nuances of Masons. I might add, I've operated no longer than Mr. Lasota, with all due respect to him. I just don't understand the issue that's before us, Mr. Chairman. I too also believe that I've served on this board for not as long as Mr. Saar, for 4 years, and I don't recall one parliamentary dispute. If what you were referring to in your earlier remarks was sometimes animated remarks between members, they have in fact occurred. They have never occurred in my history here in a board setting. They have occurred in agenda review in a much more unstructured setting. So I am assuming, if that's what you are referring to, wishing to correct the unstructured setting, that you are taking the adoption of Masons to the unstructured setting as well, because there simply is no history of a parliamentary dispute in a regular board meeting.
Ms. Livingston.
I might be speaking out of the box here, but I'm going to go with this and see if this helps other members. I believe the set of rules is more for the staff. I, for one, in the last few meetings, well, more than the last few meetings, have felt sorry for the staff from words from others towards the staff for not doing their jobs well enough, even towards the chancellor for not working hard enough for our district, for our schools. And that is the farthest for the truth. These ladies and gentlemen that sit before you, these presidents, our chancellor, our administrative services office here, works nothing but day in and day out for this board, for you, and most profoundly for the students. And this is to help us get along and go along and no longer criticize members outside of the realm of their daily business.
Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, a point of order. I believe we're being motioned that the sound is not reaching downstairs in the overflow room. And I wonder if you would instruct our technical staff to make that correction?
I think they're already working on it, is that correct?
Mr. President, members of the board, yes, we have several people bringing some new speakers in right now. I apologize about that.
Okay.
Thank you. Do we have any further comments from the board? All in favor of the adoption of Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Adoption of Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure passes. Student life reports, we don't have any. We have 5 Emeritus Distinction Awards this meeting. President Haynes, would you like to introduce your honoree?
Thank you, President Hendricks. My nominee is not able to make it tonight. Dr. Villegas is out of town. So I will take her award and make sure she's given it as soon as she comes back.
Thank you. President Gonzalez, would you like to introduce your 3 honorees?
Yes, I would, President Hendricks. In fact, my 3 folks are here tonight. So may I approach the podium?
Yes,
Thank you.
please do.
President Hendricks, members of the board, Chancellor Harper-Marinick, members of CEC, many guests here tonight. It's my pleasure to be here before you tonight to talk about 3 faculty members who have retired from Gateway this past semester and have been recommended for emeritus distinction and status. And so I will give very brief comments on their careers with Gateway and perhaps share something of a personal nature because I know these individuals and I've gotten to know them well in my 4 years at Gateway. So the first person I would like to bring up is Mr. Edward Hoskins. If you would please come and stand next to me, Mr. Hoskins. So Mr. Hoskins has a 22-year career as a faculty member at Gateway's College Respiratory Care Program. I find this to be very amazing. In his role as faculty, Ed taught every course in the curriculum, impacting the education of over 44 classes in respiratory care. That's a lot of different classes, Ed. In 2007, Ed was elected chair of Health Sciences Division, and when I entered Gateway, Ed was the chair of the Health Sciences Division, and he was reelected to that position 3 times over an 8-year period. And our allied health programs provided support to 19 different health sciences programs, 500 allied health students, 27 full-time, and 100 part-time faculty that all reported up to Mr. Hoskins during that time. Perhaps some of the governing board members and Ed can stay afterwards and share some stories, because he also serves as a trustee board member for Ottawa University. Right, Ed? Since 2013. And on the personal side, when I came into Gateway, I looked for those on campus that I could lean on for history and for wisdom. And Ed was one of those persons for me to the day he left, and even he's continued to provide that, even as I've seen him a couple times since he's retired. He's a wise sage on our campus. He's missed already, and I'm looking for other wise sages on campus now. But I want to take this time to congratulate you, to thank you, Ed, in front of everybody here on a wonderful career, and again, to thank you personally for your support when I came in as a president. And so congratulations to you, and I want to give you a moment to perhaps say a word or two.
Mr. President, Board, Chancellor, the presidents of the Community College District, I can't express how I feel today. I joined Gateway Community College 22 years and 8 months ago, effective May of this year. I went there because I wanted to be a part of the best system in the United States and the best community college providing education for allied health people in the state of Arizona. I believe it is the best and it has been the best. And I feel honored that I've had the opportunity to be able to be a part of that process and to receive the support of you and the citizens of Maricopa County to provide the best academic preparation for allied health. Many people don't realize it, but 75% of the people that work in healthcare are allied health people. So I feel honored to stand before you today to receive this award. I had no clue that I would ever receive this award. I worked hard to provide the best I could, and I felt like I was in a dream to be able to be in this environment with these people, president and other faculty, and my awesome students that I had the privilege to be able to support throughout my career. So thank you very much for this wonderful occasion.
Next, I would like to invite Charlene Thiessen up to the podium with me. Here's another faculty member, another sage on our campus who had over 20 years experience at Gateway, right? And she served as a program director and full-time faculty for the medical transcription program, as well as teaching and coordinating courses for the healthcare core curriculum. In 2009, Ms. Thiessen accepted the new challenge of teaching and coordinating healthcare core classes at Gateway. In addition to being an awesome faculty member, well loved by her students and her colleagues on campus, she found time to contribute to the academic field, particularly in her study, and she has been a reviewer on several textbooks used in the medical terminology and medical transcription classes. And in the summer of 2014, she wrote a textbook titled Basic Client Care, which addressed the need for a textbook in the HCC 200 Client Care for Allied Health. So again, 20-plus years of faculty experience at Gateway. Charlene, we appreciate all that you contributed to Gateway, to its students, and again, personally, thank you for the support you provided me as I came into Gateway as your president. And I want to congratulate you and wish you well on your retirement. So you have
Mr. President, Governing Board, Chancellor, Community College Presidents, thank you very much for this. This is just a big honor. I never, ever expected this to happen. I just was doing my job and teaching students and taking care of the things that I was responsible for. So this is like a cherry on the top of a banana split. It's just like something I never ever expected. So thank you very much for this honor.
last and certainly not least, Kerry Vrabel. Kerry, come on up. Kerry began his career at Gateway Community College in 2001. He spent his first 2 years as director of the college's Learning Center. And I have to admit, Kerry, I think I just learned that. I didn't know that. Kerry's been a professor and he served as chair when I came into Gateway. So he later transitioned to a residential ESL faculty position, which is much, much needed on our campus, given our number of students that English isn't their first language. And so he developed a relationship in 2006 with ASU's Masters in TESOL program, which established Gateway as an internship site for students in that program to come and practice on our campus. And then, of course, we benefited from that by having our students have access to those pursuing a master's degree. Kerry served as the chair of the Liberal Arts Division for 3.5 years. And one of the things that Kerry really did was help to expand, because as many of you know here, Gateway is often known as the nursing, allied health, occupational program, and Kerry's done an excellent job of expanding our transfer ed type courses. And so we saw a number of new courses, including dance, voice, guitar, none of which I had an opportunity to take, Kerry, which were offered at the college for the first time under his leadership. Those became very popular classes, and our students were really happy to see those. Kerry has also worked outside of the classroom and contributed to his academic field by publishing a textbook in 2012 that was titled Grammar and Beyond, Workbook 1 through Cambridge University Press. So Kerry's another one on campus that if I had any questions, if I had any angst about any decisions, or if I needed just somebody to lift my spirits for the day, and sometimes that's 6 or 7 times a day, I would go down to Kerry's office and sit, and he always had his door open to me. So Kerry, I wish you much happiness in your retirement, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of Gateway and the Maricopa District for your service at Gateway. Thank you.
President Hendricks, members of the board, members of CEC, Chancellor Harper-Marinick, friends, family, guests. It's been a privilege and a pleasure to work at Gateway. I have just loved every minute, and I've been so fortunate, I'm sure all my colleagues would agree, that it's a very special place, and I've worked with some very amazing people there. But most of all, I would say that I'm really deeply grateful to Gateway for giving me the opportunity to do what I love to do, and that is teach the English language to immigrants and refugees. And this work has given me a unique window into the lives of a population that highly values the opportunity to live here, yet is often invisible and sometimes misunderstood by the larger mainstream community. But with each class that went by, with each week, I watched these students grow. They grew in pride and confidence and hope that as their language grew stronger and their dreams seemed to become more possible. So all I can say is that it was a very rewarding and satisfactory job, and I'm very grateful to Maricopa for that. So I'm deeply honored tonight, and I thank you all. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now the toughest part of the night, the pronunciation of this next name. President Parita Zadi, would you like to introduce your honoree?
Mr. President, I would ask that Professor Delane Gilcrease please join me at the podium to recognize Dr. Stanley Kickert posthumously for emeritus status. Approach this podium. Thank
Please
you.
do.
I couldn't see in the audience if Professor Gilcrease, good, she's there, great, this is going well. Huh? Oh, come on, go and bring it.
So we're trying to find how we navigate.
It might be easier coming
Right
to the
this way.
front. Yeah, I think that would be easiest.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a wonderful classroom.
Yeah, it is. Mr. President, members of the board, chancellors, CEC, and guests, it is my honor to have Professor Gilcrease here tonight, who's going to say a few words about Dr. Kickert, who left us several months ago, and so she's going to talk a bit about him. We also have his wife here to say a few words, so we appreciate your recognition of him after his passing. He contributed greatly to our mission and really served students well, so thank you again.
Well, I have a prepared script because this is very nerve-wracking. Our colleague is no longer with us, and I was one of his dear friends, and I'll tell you a short story about that. So, President of the board, board members, chancellor, vice chancellors, school presidents, vice presidents. Oh, is this better? Yes. Okay. And guests. Okay. My name is Delane Gilcrease, and I'm a biology faculty member at Mesa Community College. It's my privilege to be here, to be asked to be here by our department chair to share a few words and to honor Dr. Stanley Kickert for the Emeritus Distinction Award. Stan Kickert was our beloved colleague and friend who passed away on Christmas Day of 2016 after a courageous battle with cancer, and he was only 49 years old. Okay. So I'm joined tonight by his wife, Dr. Valerie Hernandez Kickert, and she'll say a few words because she'll be accepting the award. So just a few words about his contribution, and then I'll give a personal vignette that is very touching to me and shows some vulnerability on my part. Okay, so he was a devoted and committed instructor who designed and directed our biotechnology program, and it was the first program in the Maricopa district. Along with that, he had an annual symposium that was very well attended by usually several hundred people, high school students, as well as our college students. And then from there, he coordinated the biotech Bachelor of Science program for students to transfer to Northern Arizona or NAU. And then recently, last fall, he established the Stanley Kickert Scholarship Fund for biology students, and of course now that's a memorial scholarship. So he accomplished this in the short 15 years that he was with us. So for my personal vignette, Stan and I were both diagnosed with very serious cancer. I was diagnosed 4 years ago with stage 4 uterine cancer, and that was September 2013. Stan became my primary cheerleader, encouraging me, and then unfortunately life had its way to Stan Kickert, and he was diagnosed a year later with kidney cancer that resulted in both of his kidneys being removed and subsequent dialysis. So, following this horrendous diagnosis, he faced this diagnosis with humor and encouragement. So one day I was sitting in the prep room getting ready to go to my class. Stan comes walking in and he says, "I've got a new rule." I go, "Great, what's that?" He's got his size 14 cowboy boots. He's like 6'5", and he starts marching and he's singing. And he's saying, we're going to march through this together and we're going to make it to the other side. Unfortunately, he didn't make it to the other side, but I'm still marching to the spirit of his boots. Okay. So, even in those dark days, there was positive spirit, and the teaching environment was very positive. However, we still grieve his death, and we miss him. We'll cherish him for the rest of our lives. So I'm honored to be here tonight to recognize Dr. Stanley Kickert with the Emeritus Distinction Award. So I want to allow his widow to say a few words. Dr. Valerie Hernandez Kickert.
President Hendricks, members of the board, Dr. Harper-Marinick, members of the CEC, and guests. As you have heard, my name is Dr. Valerie Hernandez, and I had the pleasure and the privilege of being married to Stan Kickert for 11 years. And we were actually together for 18 as we met at graduate school in UC Davis, and we shared that agony together. So you can imagine how elated Stan was when he received the email from District HR offering him the residential faculty position at MCC. He was so elated. His commitment to his students and MCC gave him fulfillment and a sense of purpose, especially during the past 2 years. So while the Emeritus distinction is meant to honor Stan, it is important to note that he received as much or more in return. I thank you for granting this honor to Stan. I would also like to acknowledge the MCC community, especially Dean Carol Axe and Dr. Andy Baldwin and Elaine Gilcrease for their support. Finally, I would like to thank Linda Cañas and Casey Takata for their part in seeing Stan's Emeritus distinction come to fruition. Thank you for your time.
We now move to the consideration of consent agenda items. Have we got the microphone issue resolved in the overflow?
Mr. President, members of the board, I just got a text message, and so did my partner here, and we both got it's fixed now.
So we're good to go?
Yes.
Okay. All items with an asterisk are consent matters unless they are removed from the consent agenda at this time. Any item may be removed from the agenda by the Chancellor as a matter of administrative prerogative or by the governing board upon motion duly made, seconded, and approved. Consent agenda items will be approved by one motion, and there will be no specific discussion of these items. Items removed from the consent agenda will be considered during the consideration of the non-consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove any items from the consent agenda at this time?
Mr. President,
Ms. McGrath.
I would like to remove item 14.6 and 14.7.
14.6 and 14.7 will be removed from the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Gutierrez.
I would like to remove 12.6 and 12.9.
12.6 and 12.9 will be removed from the consent agenda. Ms. McGrath and Mr. Gutierrez, are we good?
Good, thank you.
Okay. Okay, the citizens interim for consent agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the governing board consent agenda items. In compliance with the open meeting law, the governing board will neither discuss or take action on issues raised during this portion of the agenda. When necessary, issues will be taken under advisement and placed on a subsequent agenda. Presenting concerns to the board and the free expression of ideas should be communicated with decorum and respect. Uncivil or disorderly conduct is not permitted. The use of derisive or insulting language or the direction of remarks that defame, attack, or harass an individual may serve as cause for the board's president to direct that speaker to immediately conclude his or her remarks. There are two opportunities to hear from the public. The first is for items that are on the consent agenda, and then later in the agenda, I will call for persons to speak on items that are on the non-consent agenda. We have received requests to speak, and we'll call 5 members of the public. Is it 3 now?
Gloria, I don't believe we have any consent agenda speakers.
I think we have 2 for this city for the. We'll call 2 members of the public to speak on this issue because that's all that requested to speak. If your name is not called and you have submitted written remarks, those will be accepted by Ms. Smith, the assistant to the governing board, who will distribute the remarks to all board members. Likewise, if filled out a form but are not called to speak, your request will be recorded as part of the board's meeting minutes. Now, as I call your name, please come forward, and you'll each be given 3 minutes to present your remarks. First speaker is Michael Kelly.
Mr. President, governing board members, Madam Chancellor, and also presidents and honored guests. My name is Michael Kelly, and I'm an education advocate. With your request for civil discourse, I would just like to deviate and disagree with one of your opening comments, and that is that no one should run for an HOA position. The only worse job than HOA is dog catcher, and I mean no disrespect for dog catchers. As a former member of the Maricopa Community College Foundation, I understand that Hope College and Career Academy is a very sensitive matter. The fact that the building is not being paid for is alarming, and I also understand that it places the community college district in a very difficult situation. I know that Maricopa County Regional School District and the South Mountain Community College have been working diligently for many opportunity youth that reside in South Phoenix. As you may know, the South Mountain community has one of the highest rates of disconnected youth, and those are kids who have dropped out of school for various reasons, and it's the highest rate in the country. As a resident and representative of the South Mountain community, I want to make certain that our opportunity youth are not displaced. Now, many of these students have tried the traditional educational programming, and it has not worked for them. Maricopa County Regional School District has more than 100 years of history providing quality education programming to the opportunity youth in Maricopa County. And many of the students being served at Hope Academy cannot afford another setback. It is imperative that we focus on creating taxpayers and not future tax burdens. Our community needs hope, and our young people need all of us working together to resolve the matter so that the students do not experience yet another interruption in education now. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to address the board. I want to thank you for all that you have done and that you will do to help the 250,000 students in the community college system fulfill their educational dreams. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. This next one, I apologize if I mispronounce it. It's handwritten and I'm having trouble reading it, but I believe it's Alexandra Contrados.
Good evening, and yes, that is correct. My name is Alexandra Contradas, and I am here on behalf of Tree of Life Preschool Academy, which is actually housed on the campus of the Hope Career and College Readiness. I'm here as a parent whose son currently attends the Tree of Life Preschool, and I'm here as a community member who is concerned about how the board's decision will affect our youngest community members. I'm asking that you please consider the young children, the families, and the teachers associated with Tree of Life preschool program. 2 weeks ago, we were notified that as of July 1st, 2017, our preschool would no longer be able to utilize the space on campus, effectively meaning that as of this coming Monday, July 3rd, families will be scrambling to find care for their children and teachers looking for new employment. We're asking that the board at least provide time for our preschool to transition to a new location. This would allow teachers to remain employed, families to not have to take time off of work or school to care for their children, and for the children themselves to have a smooth and developmentally appropriate transition. Tree of Life is an amazing preschool program and an asset to the community that they serve. I currently work in the field of early childhood mental health as a mental health consultant, and I have to say that Tree of Life is really committed to maintaining high quality, supportive environments and nurturing relationships that are the hallmark of a quality program and that promote positive child development and social emotional growth for young children. Please allow our teachers and directors a smooth transition so that they can continue to provide this quality care to my son and to the many other children and families that they serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Consent agenda is passed. Okay, we're on to consideration of non-consent agenda items. Citizens interim for non-consent agenda items or other issues. It is now time for members of the public to address the governing board on non-consent agenda items or other issues. Tonight, the sole item for which we will hear speakers is on the DACA appeal matter. In compliance with the open meeting law, the governing board will neither discuss nor take action on issues raised during this portion of the agenda. When necessary, issues will be taken under advisement and placed on a subsequent agenda. Due to the number of guests, I will call 8 persons forward to speak, each for 3 minutes. Those who may have filled out a form but were not called forward, your request will be recorded as part of our meeting minutes, and any written remarks not read can be submitted to the board's assistant for distribution to the board members. First speaker, Danilo Mendoza.
Good evening, board. My name is Danilo Andrade Mendoza. This is the research from scholarships AC that will be given to you about how beneficial in-state residency tuition is to our community and economy. I have been living in Tucson, Arizona for 14 years, and I'm a Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals DACA recipient. First, I would want to take a moment to thank you all for courageously becoming the first public higher education institution in Arizona to allow DACA students to pay in-state residency tuition back in September 2012. Thanks to this decision, Scholarship AZ was able to push the Pima Community College Board of Governors and won in-state residency tuition for DACA students at Pima Community College in February 2013. I attended Pima Community College for 3 years, from 2012 to 2015. Thanks to this win, I was able to graduate from Pima Community College with an Associate of General Studies in Electrical and Computer Engineering with high honors. I graduated from Pima in 2014, but due to the fact that there wasn't in-state residency tuition at the 3 Arizona State Universities yet, I was stuck at Pima. Throughout that whole year, I was saving money to leave to New Mexico, because it would have been cheaper for me to have gone to New Mexico than to go to the University of Arizona, which is about 10 blocks from my house. I would like to thank the Maricopa County Community College District Board of Governors for fighting the lawsuit against in-state residency tuition for DACA students from the Attorney General. Thanks to this, the Arizona Board of Regents followed Maricopa County Community College District's decision and granted in-state residency tuition to DACA students in May 2015. I attended the University of Arizona for 2 years, from 2015 to 2017. Thanks to this win, I was able to graduate from the University of Arizona with a Bachelor of Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering, magna cum laude, with a minor in math. This is what in-state residency tuition does. Without in-state residency tuition, I would have not been able to graduate from Pima Community College and the University of Arizona. I now plan on attending graduate school at the University of Arizona to pursue a Master of Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering. I would only be able to do this with in-state residency tuition. Without in-state residency tuition, I would be in limbo again. I would not be able to attend the University of Arizona. Thanks to your courage and continuous fight, many DACA students have been able to move forward with their higher education. I would like to politely ask you to please review the Arizona Court of Appeals ruling and keep offering in-state residency tuition to DACA students. I thank you for taking the time to listen to me.
Our next speaker is Jessica Rodriguez.
Good evening, members of the board and community members. Buenas tardes a miembros de la comunidad. My name is Jessica Rodriguez. I'm undocumented and unafraid. I'm privileged to have DACA. I've been a student at NAU, Northern Arizona University. I'm a community organizer for Lucha, Living United for Change in Arizona, and ACE, Arizona Center for Empowerment. Today we brought in a delegation of 35 individuals from Tucson, and please, I will ask all of them to get up. The other half is providing the interpretation for families in the other room. We are a diverse group from many educational backgrounds that cares about your DACA students in Maricopa Community Colleges. In front of you, you have representation from multiple organizations in Tucson, educators in high schools in Tucson, students from Pima Community College, and the University of Arizona. I want to say thank you for the uphill battle that you have had for the almost 5 years and for defending institution for DACA students. I also want to acknowledge Fernando Najera, Areli Herrera, Abril Gallardo, Perla Rojas, who are here and were unable to speak to you, as well as other community members. Let's highlight why we're here gathered. We're here because the decision the Maricopa Community College Board takes will affect all the DACA students across the state, including those in Tucson. We're here because we want to thank you for your bravery, and we have faith on you that you will continue to do so, that you'll be unafraid as we are. We want you to continue the legal battle to protect institution for DACA students. The decision that you take now is going to impact individuals like me and all of those who are here tonight. Thank you.
Next speaker is Maria Del Socorro Leon.
Good evening, President of the Board, board members and guests, and presidents of the community colleges and everyone else who is here. My name is Maria del Socorro Leon Peña. I'm a student at Paradise Valley Community College, and I am a member of Aliento. Ever since 2012, you have supported DACA students in our education. Without you, I don't know if 2,056 people would be pursuing their dreams right now. I myself am one of these individuals. I started pursuing my dreams in 2015 when I easily enrolled into Paradise Valley Community College, also known as PVCC. In the spring of 2017, I finished my second year of college. Today, I am here to thank you for these 2 years because within them lie some of the best experiences of my life. To demonstrate this, I did not obtain a 4.0 on my own, and this led me to want to pay it forward to my community college by becoming a peer mentor. With this opportunity, I was able to be there for many first-year college students who were deciding to step outside their comfort zones by attending PVCC. Becoming a peer mentor was a very rewarding experience because not only was I able to give back to my school, I learned a lot from these students and I was able to grow as a person. In addition to becoming a peer mentor, I also became a member of the Diversity Incorporated program at PVCC. In this program, a group of students and I trained to teach students about learning how to challenge themselves to work for an inclusive environment, which then leads to a more accepting community. After all, Maricopa colleges are all about communities that provide mutual support for all people. Another amazing experience has been working on my Associates in Science degree so that one day I may become a pediatrician. As a pediatrician, I would be serving our future generations of Arizona, and it would be an honor to do so. Again, all of my accomplishments would not be a reality if it was not for in-state tuition. However, they became a possibility when you filed the lawsuit that gave me the chance to give back to my home state, Arizona, which I have lived in for 15 years as a Maricopa County resident. Currently, one of my goals is to create a bridge for DACA students, immigrants, and any other students looking to better their lives by attending PVCC to pursue a higher education. In order to meet this goal, I need your support. I'm asking you to be brave and to decide to appeal this decision. Thank you for your time.
Luis Avila.
President Hendricks, members of the board, I'd like to start off by giving glory to God for giving us all the opportunity to gather here today. I'm here with undocumented students for education equity. My name is Luis Avila. I am an incoming senior at ASU pursuing a Bachelor's of Science in Landscape Architecture. I was born in Cuernavaca, Morelos, Mexico. I moved here along with my family at the age of 3. Growing up, my dad worked construction, and I got to watch him help build our Phoenix skyline. The idea of drafting something on paper and watching it slowly come to life encouraged me to pursue a career in architecture. Thanks to your willingness to stand alone and set an example to the rest of the higher education institutions here in Arizona, I was able to continue to pursue this dream to become an architect. Much like myself and the people behind me, there are thousands of students in need of your continued support. Without in-state tuition, I simply cannot afford to pay for my last year at ASU. Our public education system already faces enough challenges. We cannot allow for yet another barrier to come in between students pursuing a career through our higher education system. This failure to meet educational needs increases disengagement and dropouts. So along with everybody behind me here today, I'm asking that you continue to support and fight for in-state tuition for DACA students. We understand that not everybody here got the chance to share their story and their message, but to help them share their story, we put together these thank you cards that are not only to thank you for your continued support, but to give you the opportunity to listen to everybody else's story. So thank you for your time.
Angel Bautista.
Good evening, President, Chancellor, presidents, and members of the board. Justice is a balance between morality and right, and has a valor superior to that of the law. Today, I stand before you to thank you for continuing to fight for what's morally right. I am a student at Paradise Valley Community College. I am a church leader. I am a taxpayer. I am a homeowner and an entrepreneur. I hope to graduate from Paradise Valley in the spring of 2018 to eventually fulfill my dreams of becoming a lawyer and help my community, my city, my state, and my country, which is the United States. Before you, you have the future doctors, you have the future lawyers, the future teachers, engineers, scientists, and community leaders that will make a positive impact on our society. We are students that contribute to our economies, communities, our families, our churches, and our schools. Thanks to the Maricopa Community College District, I had the opportunity to meet amazing people, amazing teachers and mentors, and I have the opportunity to evolve and become a better citizen through the different programs at MCCD, such as Emerging Leaders and Diversity Incorporated. Most of the funding for the Maricopa Community College District comes from property taxes. According to the Migrant Policy Institute, when combined, 89,000 undocumented and DACA recipients are homeowners. As a young student and also as a homeowner, I feel blessed to know that my taxes will help contribute to our education system. However, I feel heartbroken knowing that even though I am a homeowner and I pay taxes and I contribute, I might be excluded from in-state tuition just because I am a dreamer. I invite everyone who's here in this room today to get rid of all divisions, politics, and hatred. Let's all unite as a whole and fight for what's morally right. I urge you to protect the 2,500 DACA recipients currently enrolled in the Maricopa Community Colleges. I urge you to protect education. I urge you to continue the fight against this injustice. We love the Maricopa Community Colleges. We love Arizona. This is our city and this is our state. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Matthew 5:5-6. Thank you for this opportunity.
Orlando Monso.
Hello, Mr. President Hendricks and members of the governing board. Before I begin, I want to introduce and present to you a former undocumented person who understands the values of higher education, and she's here to support DACA students. Her name is Isela Knack. She's also in the House of Representatives here in Arizona. My name is Orlando Manso. I'm a Dreamer student at Arizona State University. I am eager to join you here today and happy to let you know that thanks to you, I was able to graduate with an associate's degree from South Mountain Community College. I now am senior student enrolled at Arizona State University. Thanks to you, I am one step away to become the first member of my family to graduate from a university. Thanks to you, with my career, I can help others in my community. Thanks to you, my future looks promising. And thanks to you, I am what I am today, which is a better and educated person. Today, I'm turning 29 years old, and I have been in this country since I was 8. That is 21 years here in Arizona. I started working when I was 16 years old doing landscaping. That's 13 years of paying taxes and contributing to the state and my community. I have been attending college since 2009, pursuing my higher education. If MCCD does not move forward with this case, it will likely mean that I will not be able to obtain my bachelor's degree in sports journalism from Arizona State University. The decision you take today does not only affect MCCD students, but students in other institutions across the state. Just like them, we all have a dream. Just like one of the greatest demonstrations of freedom in the history of our nation, Martin Luther King Jr. gave his speech called I Have a Dream, a speech intended for freedom and similar for what we are fighting for. We need freedom and not discriminatory education. We also have a dream, and we are here to ask you to please continue to protect in-state tuition for DACA students. Thank you all for your support.
Ezekiel Santos.
Good afternoon, President of the Board, board members, and guests. My name is Ezekiel Santos, and I'm a student at MCC, a leader of Aliento and of Mesa Undocumented Students Thriving, a new club for undocumented students at MCC. I appreciate this moment given to me to talk about how important being in school is to me. It has taken me 4 years after being approved for a Deferred Act for Childhood Arrivals, also known as DACA, to be economically stable to afford paying for my education, since I do not have access to most scholarships. January of this year was the first time I stepped on the grounds of MCC as a student. As I knocked on the classroom door, I walked into class on the first day of school. I swallowed the knot in my throat and I put a smile on my face. I had just spoken to my mother over the phone, expressing how overwhelmed and emotional I felt to finally be doing what I've wanted to do since graduating high school in 2010. Even though most of my friends graduated and finished college, I knew that this was my time to expand my skills, experience the college life, and achieve my full potential like I planned in high school along with my friends. It was my time to finally be a MCC Thunderbird. After the courts decided to take away in-state tuition, I once again felt overwhelmed with a heavy heart, seeing how a door was being closed in front of my eyes. That is why I'm here today. I thank you for opening the doors of education for young people like me in the past in 2012. But I am now asking to please leave this door open. You are our and my only hope since stepping in the U.S. at the age of 3, when my family made the decision to migrate to Arizona to provide for our family and to contribute to Arizona and the U.S. As you make your decision, whether you appeal or not, I want you to think of the ambitious young men and women who love this country and the state as much as I do. I respectfully ask you to not close your doors on us now. Please appeal the decision and help protect my dream of getting a higher education. Thank you.
Our final speaker is Lorena Austin.
Good evening, President Hendricks, governing board members, Chancellor Harper-Marinick, members of CEC, and guests. My name is Lorena Austin, and I'm the student body president for the Associated Students of Mesa Community College. I am here tonight to address the state of Arizona's recent ruling on in-state tuition for DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals recipients. As you know, this ruling would debilitate the ability of thousands of current and incoming Maricopa Community College students to receive degrees, certificates, and post-secondary education from one of the preeminent community college districts in the nation. I'd like to thank Chancellor Harper-Marinick for her swift and supportive response to the recent ruling and her continued efforts for the success of our students. The students of Mesa Community College would like to thank you for your continued support of student success. We would also like to thank the governing board for their unwavering support. Mesa Community College currently has approximately 260 DACA students enrolled. Just this past semester, MCC became a Hispanic Serving Institute, and this would not have been achieved without our DACA students. Using data I've received from my campus's Office of Institutional Effectiveness, it's evident that the data shows a slow and steady increase in our Hispanic population since DACA's implementation into Maricopa's system in 2012. The overall increase across the college has allowed Mesa to become a designated Hispanic Serving Institute, or HSI, which opens the doors for additional federal funding to help support all students enrolled at Mesa. Proceeds from these grants can help fund student resources up to roughly $3 million. I imagine other colleges have seen similar increases in Hispanic populations due to DACA's implementations. In a quote generally attributed to JFK, "A rising tide lifts all boats," If we improve things for some, it helps us all, and we will only benefit from helping each other. Our district values inclusiveness and community as identified in our vision and values available online. And I quote, it quotes, "We value all people, our students, our employees, their families, and the communities in which they live and work. We value our global community of which we are an integral part. We value lifelong learning opportunities that respond to the needs of our communities and are accessible, affordable, and of the highest quality. We encourage dialogue and the freedom to have an open exchange of ideas for the common good. We believe supporting DACA students aligns with Maricopa's vision, dedication to our community, and higher education. Students are our future. We must invest in our future, and we urge you to carry on your legacy in supporting DACA students. And on behalf of the students at Mesa Community College, we thank you for the opportunity to address you all tonight. Thank you.
Thank you to each of the speakers. It's uplifting and encouraging to see so many young people having the courage to stand at the podium and express their viewpoints and their ideas. Thank you to each of you for coming. Our next agenda item, I'm going to skip around the agenda a little bit. Item 16.3 is the decision on the DACA appeal. Comments from the board.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gutierrez.
I would like to, at the appropriate time, make a motion, and I believe that is now in order to open discussion.
Please proceed.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board approve the legal appeal to the Supreme Court in the matter of in-state tuition for DACA students.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Comments from the board? Dr. Thor.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. I would like to begin by thanking the very articulate students who spoke to us tonight. And I particularly appreciate your graciousness in acknowledging the courage that it took the Maricopa Community College District and the governing board in being the first to offer in-state tuition to DACA students, and also for taking on the various challenges that were put before us in the courts. Like many of the people in this room, I am the daughter of an immigrant, my father having come to this country when he was 17 years old by himself. And because of this great country, he was able to build a life and raise a family that a successful family that allowed me to be the first in my family to go to college. So for me, supporting an appeal to the Supreme Court of the Appeals Court ruling is a no-brainer for me. I feel that we have a moral and ethical responsibility to our students. And frankly, I couldn't sleep tonight if I took an action that abruptly ended the dreams of over 2,000 students just in the Maricopa colleges just this year. Also, the mission of the community colleges, two of the primary parts of that mission are to prepare a skilled workforce that enables us to have a strong economy. And it's clear from the speakers tonight that the DACA students are doing exactly that you are getting the skills necessary for the workforce. But we also prepare students for transfer to the university, and clearly the speakers tonight have also indicated that DACA students are fulfilling that part of our mission very well. But besides the morality and the mission, there's just the pure economics of this. And DACA students this last year paid in tuition almost $2.9 million. And if we do not pursue an appeal of this ruling to the Supreme Court, we better start meeting right now figuring out how we're going to cut that money out of our budget. So the least that we can do is request the appeal and by hopefully a semester, a year, or more for all of us to figure out the next steps. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Sarr.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to reiterate how proud I am of these speakers tonight. I know you represent a lot of students and you did very well, even those that came from Tucson. I understand they have the same classes up there, but thank you for showing up here and showing that those Wildcats are just as good as those Sun Devils. I'm an NAU graduate, just so you know. And Mr. Chair, I'd like to voice vote on this.
Thank you. Further comments? Ms. Livingston.
As a school teacher, and a Title I teacher at that, I see many students every year that are in the same boat. They come over from different countries and they have the same dream. They have your dream. And many of them will make it. They will. They have a long road ahead of them, some of them, and some maybe not as much. But they will make it. On the opposite side of the spectrum is the reality of the law. And I think we must, as board members, take that into account. We not only represent you, we represent every citizen of the state as taxpayers. And as much as this breaks my heart to say this, let's keep in mind that ARS 15232 did overwhelmingly pass Prop 300 by voters in our state, 71% to 29%. They voted in favor of not instituting the in-state tuition for adults seeking additional education. That's just reality. As a board, we represent not just students, but the entire community. And I want you to know that. You are very well spoken. Your words touched me. My students touch me. But I do have to remember that we vote for all. Thank you for coming tonight.
Ms. Haber.
I'd like to thank all of you for coming tonight. You remind me of the students I taught. I taught English learners and for about 19 years. And what I wanted more than anything in the world was for them to go on to college and have good lives. And many of them did. This was before the law changed that opportunity. And they'd come and visit me. I remember one kid who's going to be a policeman. He came to visit me. He was enrolled at Phoenix College. I said, well, are you still going to be a policeman? And he said, no, I'm going to be a lawyer. And it was everything to me. And I am so proud of you that you've had to endure this hardship of Proposition 300. At the time, I personally was appalled and I did not think it would pass, and I was extremely disappointed. And all I can say is that I'm willing to do whatever I can for you, just as I felt for my own students that I taught, and I don't know where they are today. I've often wondered, well, were some of them sent back to Mexico? What happened to them? I haven't seen them for so long. I've been retired for quite a while, and I think, well, maybe I'll see them. Maybe they're out there with really good jobs by now. I hope so. But I see you, and I think, you're so much like them. And I'm so proud of you. And all I can say is that I'm on your side, as many people are. and I certainly am willing to do what I can for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for the articulate and gracious way that you have presented yourself here. But I will be honest with you, I expected no less. It has been one extraordinary journey that you have all gone through. And the kinds of sacrifices you've had to make to be here, the kinds of sacrifices, look, Latinos, overwhelmingly our population in our community colleges, first generation Latinos, whether they've papers or whether they're undocumented. But those of you who are undocumented have had an extra burden, an extra hurdle, and you're here. There's 2,500 persons like you in our system, 2,500. There's probably 3 or 4 statewide. But the fact is, the decision we make today is a decision that will either give us an opportunity to go forward and argue again and give you the opportunity to pay lower tuition for perhaps a semester, perhaps 2, because we may lose. That's the decision we make. It's a decision no one else can make. It's a decision that every other community college in the state of Arizona chose not to make. Chose to find a reason not to fight this fight. That the Board of Regents chose not to fight this fight. My predecessors on this board, Chancellor Harper's predecessor on this board, decided to take on this fight. And I just want to share with you, I want you to understand it has not been without consequence. There are many people, I've been told many times by legislators that the reason that we were taken to 0 is because we defied the governor, the legislature, and as Mrs. Livingston has pointed out, the voters, and proceeded to go forward and fight this fight. And the consequence have been cuts of millions of dollars into the system. So it hasn't been without consequences, and I want you to understand that people whom you don't normally think of, people like the Chancellor and her predecessor, people like Mrs. Avery, there are a lot of people who took a lot of courageous positions. They're not important in your lives, or so you thought, until the appellate court decision, and then you realize that there are people that are exceedingly important in your lives that you ignore, that we all ignore. That's not, by the way, an indictment of you. That's the way we live our lives. So there have been consequences. I need to tell you that you make up, statistically, 5% of our community. But you're an interesting 5%. You're the most exciting 5%. You're fighting, and you're inspiring others. So I also want to warn you that we go into this battle, should it pass, and I believe it will. We go into this battle this time with this circumstance, and you need to know it. We lost at the appellate level, and we lost unanimously. It was 2 sets of decisions, but they came to the same conclusion. If we file with the Supreme Court, we may lose again. The fact of the matter is that the majority of the court today is a 7-member court now. The majority of the court today was appointed by either Governor Brewer or Governor Ducey. Neither of which have shown much sympathy for you. and one can only assume that that court may not as well. And so I share that with you, not to depress you as you walk out the door, but to encourage you to begin to plan for what the next steps are going to be. Because I want you to be that pediatrician. You can't give up on that. I want you to be that architect. You can't give up on that. I want you to be that lawyer. You can't give up on that. But that means you have to take the time we can provide you with this vote and start planning and start making the steps necessary. It's going to be, as I said before, it's a greater sacrifice. It's a greater barrier than any other student has. I suspect that almost everyone in this room is going to be the first person in their family to go through college. It's a greater responsibility that you have. So I want us to proceed, want us to fight on, want us to go forward, and I believe we will. But you should be understanding that just as we can win in the months ahead, we can lose. And you have to be ready for that, and you have to plan for that. And the one plan you cannot have in mind is defeat. The only plan you can have in mind is how we overcome those barriers that have been placed in front of you. Thank you.
Do we have any further comments? With that, I'll make comments of my own. I suspect that most of you in this room will prevail and you will complete your certificates or your degrees. The fact that you're here tonight, the fact that you're this motivated, you're this active, regardless of what the courts decide, you will find a way. You'll find a way to fund your education, you'll find a way to complete your education or whatever direction you choose to go. And I suspect you'll be successful in life. Those that are not in this room may have more challenges, and I would agree they probably need to plan over the next year what will happen if this appeal does not prevail. Because at that point, they'll have to have a plan for whether they're going to go a different direction or find some sort of funding. Take this year to plan for what you're going to do. Yeah. With that, we'll, Ms. Smith, will you call the roll?
The motion is to appeal. So if you're opposed to appeal, you vote no.
Mr. Gutierrez, would you restate the motion, please?
Yes, sir. I may not be able to restate the motion. We may all never come to an end because no. I move that the board approve the legal appeal to the Supreme Court in the matter of the in-state tuition for DACA students.
So to be clear, a yes vote is to move forward with the appeal.
That's correct.
A no vote is to not move forward with the appeal.
That is correct.
Ms. Smith, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Livingston?
No.
Mr. Starr?
Let me explain my vote, please.
Please proceed.
You know, there's not a tax issue here to the taxpayers because we've already sent the bill to the taxpayers for this coming school year. This is really a matter of giving the opportunity for current DACA students to get as far along their program of study as they can with the tuition at a lower rate. The chances, as has been mentioned by Mr. Gutierrez and others, of this making it past the Supreme Court is minimal. And I want to make sure that you understand that you're not investing money that you won't get a return on. But I also want to make sure that for every credit you get under this lower tuition, if we approve this, is in your best advantage. So fill up your schedule with credits. I think it's important that all of you get to the point in your life where you become not only contributors to our society, but to your family and your families and relatives that count on you for not only livelihood, but for motivation. So I want you to make sure that you plan. You're smart enough, you know what's going on, you have to make sure that your future is in your hands and that you take the best advantage of those opportunities that are given to you. So with that being said, I vote aye.
Mrs. Haber,
Aye.
Dr. Thor,
Aye.
Mrs. McGrath.
I'd like to explain my vote, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
I've heard a lot from my people in my district about this item, and I cannot in good conscience commit taxpayer money to appeal a decision that is sure to fail. I vote no.
Mr. Hendricks,
Going to explain my vote briefly. I represent the voters and taxpayers of my district. Whether I agree with their positions or disagree with their positions, I still represent them, and I represent their positions. They were clear when they voted for Proposition 300. I vote no.
Mr. Gutierrez.
I vote aye.
The vote is 4-3, 4 yeses and 3 noes.
Motion passes 4-3. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. If some people want to leave the room, we'll give them time to leave. We'll reconvene in 5 minutes. Approval of acceptance of independent investigation report regarding classified staff council complaints.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gutierrez.
I want to address this item. Mr. President, I think it is premature to have this item before us. And if we are going to have it before us, I think we ought to spend a moment on it, because this is, in my opinion, one of the most important documents that we have for guidance before us. This came about, as you know, because the staff made a series of allegations, a series of complaints. And as a consequence, this independent study, this independent investigation took place. And what it found is that in every instance, the allegation that was made was upheld. In every instance. And so you have, for example, the first set of allegations. The allegations that the staff council made a recommendation that a certain individual serve in a committee, and that HR took the position that that was not the case, that they would not allow that. This went on for months, that they would not allow that. It raised great attention, even though non-board members of the faculty association serve on committees. Nonetheless, the point was taken with this particular association, the one that was formed after the 5 pre-existing associations were merged into one, that they, now the largest association of all, could not appoint anyone other than a board member. It was ultimately resolved. It was ultimately resolved because Mr. Houston, the individual in contention, was allowed to sit on the board. But as of the writing of this report, what was not ultimately resolved is the permanent resolution. We still are in contention. Let's move on, Mr. President, because the next allegation, and on that allegation, I might add, the report finds that it happened. It happened precisely as was described. But what it also finds is that there was no policy. And as a consequence, it just went on because there was no policy. And apparently there was no management as well to bring this to an end, to make a final decision and a fair decision. So then we get to the other. And the next one is the question of that someone, I can name names, but let's not do that, someone had control of the email list of someone on staff, someone on HR, had control of the email of the staff council and could, whenever they wished, just intrude into their private communications and read them and follow them. That allegation, by the way, as of the writing of this report, continues. Not an allegation, by the way, because what the report finds is that it happened. But again, there was no violation of policy because there was no policy. And apparently, again, there was nobody in charge here. And it just went on and on and on. And to this day, it goes on. Now, it goes on. However, there's a promise that they're never, ever going to looky-look. But they haven't turned over the list. They haven't turned over control, which they have with the Faculty Association and with everyone else. But in this particular association, the one that was formed of the 5 largest, they simply have not. As of the writing of this report, according to Ms. Raina Jones, who wrote this report at our request. And then we come to the larger one, the larger allegation. What Ms. Raina Jones writes in this report is interesting, because the section 3, page 8, is entitled, let me read it. The evidence did not substantiate the CSC's claim of intentional forgery, but HR did erroneously publish an altered written agreement. Intentional forgery. The reason that's so interesting is because in the statement that was given to us by Ms. Chris Bliss, the head of the association, it never says forgery, intentional or otherwise. What it says, what it talks about, is what appears to be tampering with the content and signatures of a written agreement entered into by the then current employee group. That's what it says. The word intentional forgery, or the phrase intentional forgery, was never alleged. But I think it's important. It shows, I think, the predisposition of Ms. Jones to entitle her section, and I read it again, because I think if there is a phrase that gives us insight into the frame of mind of the author of the document, is this phrase. The evidence did not substantiate the CSC's claim of intentional forgery. The CSC never made a claim of intentional forgery. It made a claim of tampering with a document. That's what it made a claim. And what was Rena Jones finds is that they tampered with the document. Precisely what was alleged. And this is the most interesting part of all. I suspect that all of you tried to read it. I said tried, because it goes on for a number of pages, and it reads like the Keystone Cops of Management. The document jumps from one section to another section. It moves upstairs, it goes downstairs, it goes across. It goes on for a year. And Mr. Chairman,
I would like to call for a question.
Second.
there are no, Mr. President, point of order. There are no rules that indicate that I am.
You're correct, Mr. Gutierrez. Continue.
Okay, thank you. So, it reads like the Keystone Cops. This document, it bounces from one office to another office. It goes upstairs. It goes to the director's office. It comes back down. It goes to a clerk. It goes to clerks who say, this shouldn't be in front of me. I should not be changing this document. And then it bounces elsewhere. And no one takes responsibility. No one is in charge. It's out of control. That's what this reads. And I challenge any of you to try and read this out loud. It is the most hilarious, it's the Keystone Cops. Then, Mr. President, we go to the findings. The findings are that the employees involved in the editing of the MOU did not violate Arizona law, and that is because there was no malevolent motivation. Now remember, the title of Mrs. Rayna Jones' section is intentional forgery. No such allegation was made. But here we find that it did not violate Arizona law because it was not intentional forgery, which was never raised. But it happened. It happened for reasons of clear incompetence. The Human Resources Department was careless in the management of the MOU. Careless is I guess the nicest word Ms. Jones could come up with to describe the absolute incompetence that is in her own report. It happened, and it happened precisely in the manner in which it was raised. The document was tampered with. The document was altered. The allegation of intentional forgery was never made. And the report concludes it was carelessness. Well, it was carelessness that went on for over a year. That's a very nice word. Carelessness for what is rampant incompetence, in my opinion. But let's go on, because there's two other items here. One item is there are two other allegations. The allegations are that of retaliation. The retaliation issue raised against the chancellor, I think we'll all agree, did not rise to the issue of retaliation. Yeah, I mean, there was a bit of anger there. There should have been. It was appropriate, and that was that. But the other allegation is mighty interesting, because the other allegation against the vice chancellor And that allegation is interesting because it happened. It happened. There was, the report itself states, that those who heard the Vice Chancellor thought there was retaliation. But it did not constitute retaliation for this reason. The Vice Chancellor had taken a similar position in the past. As a consequence, Ms. Jones concludes that therefore that defense was insufficient, or rather that defense made the charge of retaliation insufficient. I'm not an attorney and I'm not going to argue with Ms. Jones. I will about her forgery allegation. I'm not an attorney, I'm not going to argue with her. But it happened. Every issue that was raised happened. Now, the reason this is so exceedingly important, in my judgment, is this. These are the same group of people. These are the same group of people who are supposed to now take 10,000 employees, all of our employees, into a class and comp system. Every one of our employees, the same people who couldn't for a year control one lousy document, the same people who to this day, well, to the day that we received this, the same people still could at the flick of a switch spy on their own employees, on their own council. Those same folks we are now to entrust to come up with a fair and rational system for 10,000 folks. Now, I venture to say that some of that job probably can get done by now. I mean, we've gone through one delay. We're now looking at October. But I suspect that we won't be doing it October either. We'll be asking for another delay. Because there's two sides to this coin. One is, you say that an employee fits into this category, but then you have to have a set of competence so that competency, so the employee can improve, so that the employee can move forward. I doubt if that's going to be done by October. I doubt if this group of folks who did this in this report can accomplish that. So I think this is premature. The other reason I think it's premature is the Chancellor's own response, which was that, yes, no violations were found. And I agree with that. No violations were found. On the other hand, the Chancellor's response is that we have to respond to this. There is a problem here. And I think we ought to delay this until we know what that response is, whether it be a response in public session or a response in executive session. That's what we ought to do, because this is a very, very troubling report. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Starr?
I move that we accept the independent investigation report regarding classified staff council complaints.
Do we have a second?
I second.
I request a roll call vote.
Roll call vote has been requested. Ms. Smith, please call the roll.
This is on item 12.6. Mrs. Haber?
Aye.
Dr. Thor?
Aye.
Mrs. Livingston?
Aye.
Mrs. McGrath?
Aye.
Mr. Sarr?
Aye.
Mr. Gutierrez?
Mr. President, I'd like to explain my vote.
Please proceed.
Mr. President, I fully expected that this item was going to be accepted in the manner that it's being accepted. But I wanted to make it clear that this item is not going to be swept under the rug. There is too much at stake here to sweep this under the rug. 10,000 of our employees depend on there being a competent and fair and just HR department. And this report points to the fact that we may not in fact enjoy that. So I'm going to vote no. I understand I will be the sole no vote, but I want to be the sole no vote and lodge my clear complaint my clear dissatisfaction and remind everyone that we're not done with this. The Chancellor herself has written, there's still work to be done. I will be awaiting that work. I will be encouraging that work. I will be raising hell till we get that work. I vote no.
Mr. Hendricks.
I want to briefly explain my vote because I don't want to vote behind the comments that have just been made. I want to make clear that it is my belief we do have a competent, fair, and just HR department. We do have a competent, fair, and just chancellor. And by no means do I want to lend credibility to the comments that have just been made. I vote aye.
The vote is 6-1. Mr. Gutierrez votes no.
Motion passes 6-1. Next item on the agenda is item 12.9. I'm going to ask for a motion to bring this forth.
So move.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
A second. Do we have comments from the members?
Mr. President.
Mr. Gutierrez.
Mr. President, I fully support this transformation plan, but I just want to be sure that we sort of understand this was on the consent agenda, and I took it off the consent agenda because I want everyone to understand what an important step we are taking here. It is a step that in many ways breaks with all tradition of Maricopa County. Community college district that has for years moved in this slow, thoughtful, pedantic way, moving forward. What we're about to do is a dramatic departure from that. Assuming we do this well. The history of that, Mr. President, I think that we all remember, it begins late last year with a consideration of a resolution that we begin consolidating colleges, that we begin looking at ways, in effect, to cut and make the system more efficient. That led to a long discussion by the board, by the chancellor, as to what the future, what the transformation of this system should be. It came to an understanding that the system couldn't go forward in that sort of slow way that it had for so many years. And so that initial resolution was never adopted. It just sort of transmogrified again and again and again into a subsequent resolution. One that found 4 important items. That we would maintain financial stability by focusing on enrollment, management, retention, persistent, and student success. That we would empower the system to be more agile and responsive in addressing the skills gap and workforce needed and in expanding partnerships. No one's ever accused in the past MCCD of being agile. Incentivize the colleges to be more entrepreneurial. etc. We were going to do that, by the way, by continuing our commitment to shared governance, driving out fear by living our institutional values. And so what is before us came about because the Chancellor took that resolution that we passed and took it to heart. She created a task force that began to evaluate, to assess the district in its entirety. It came about as well because a member of this board, Mr. Saar, who had for a number of years that I've sat on this board, been pressuring this board, pressuring us to do a better job at CTE, do a better job at workforce development, and was a constant purveyor of ideas, best practices from across the country. He was the reason that many of us took the trip to San Antonio with the Chancellor and began to look at pathways, guided pathways and institutions, and begin to recognize their value. And so we came back and the decision was made to do the following. And this is where it gets dramatic. We have close to $800 million in reserves. Some of that is by our own policy, and some of that it just simply was accumulated over time. We have been criticized greatly by the Arizona Tax Research Association for the magnitude of that reserves, that they're simply too great, and that we should never contemplate increasing taxes because our reserves are substantially greater than what we need to keep in reserve. That conversation with the folks at ATRA led some of us to begin to review those reserves and say, maybe they're right. Maybe those reserves are a little too great. Perhaps in this transformation that the Chancellor and her task force envisioned, perhaps in this efforts that Mr. Saar has been pushing us towards, the money is there to accomplish all of this. And that's what we've done. We've taken, this authorizes $26 million this year. It sets a pathway for $26 or so million next year, $50 million coming out of the reserves. Now, lowering the reserves might make ATRA very happy, but they thought we were going to give it back to the taxpayers. Instead, we're going to do exactly the opposite. We're going to grow the district. The $26 million is for hiring up to 300 people, for example. Advisors. It's finding ways of better serving our students. It's an exciting step forward. But we did it in an interesting way, and I want to share that with you. The first is the establishment of an organizational unit separate from the general fund. The reason for that is so that we can measure it, so that we can see what's happening, so that we could see where the funds were going. It wouldn't just disappear into the general fund. It wouldn't be one Maricopa and it sort of goes away into the general fund. It would be a very specific effort, very specific initiative. And it would come back to us at least quarterly to report on not only the financing of how that was being spent and on what that was being spent, but on the metrics of success. Now, the first part of this is the planning. And I'm very excited with the decisions by the Chancellor on the leadership that she's brought to bear on this. But this motion today may well change the face of these colleges to something much more modern, much more agile, and that's serving our students in a much greater way. So I'm proud that it's before us, and I'm happy to vote aye when appropriate. Thank you.
Any further comments? Mr. Sarr?
My concern is the end result of all this. Whether we invest 26 million or more or less, it has to be for a purpose, and it's not just to do things. It's to get to a point in our district where we can show progress towards the things that we are focused on more than anything else, which is the number of completions of our students, both in terms of certificates and degrees. So the Chancellor has given us some goals and some outcomes. I just want to make sure that everybody understands what those are and how we are going to track progress towards those. So I'll ask the Chancellor to kind of summarize what she has done regarding that, if that's possible.
Mr. Sarr, Mr. Hendricks, members of the board, are you talking about the transformation goals that, and the report that I just sent to?
There's a 20% increase in your report to us in, if I read it right, in certificates and degrees.
I got the question, thank you. So, yes, we are having as outcomes in a variety of ways, including enrollment, completion of certificates. We are hoping to increase specifically the completion of certificates by 20%. And we're looking at a 3-year period to do that. We clearly, all the colleges are working very hard to make sure that we increase enrollment where appropriate. So there is a goal to that. And we believe, as a result of all of the student success initiatives that we've been working on, in addition to what we may do in the future with the transformation, that will lead to an increase in the completion also of degrees and transfer students successfully.
And CTE certificates?
Yes, primarily CTE certificates actually, because we award very few academic certificates. So the increase will have to be driven by the completion of CTE certificates, yes.
I just want to make sure that, I, as a board member, I want to make sure that we're making progress, and the investment we're making is showing a return. And the only logical return for a district like this, or to any institution of education, is improvement in the mission that we have. And our mission, in shorter words, is that we want to make sure that we provide the opportunity for our students to get the credentials that they need to advance in their lives. And so I'm going to support this because I'm also going to keep the Chancellor on her toes when it comes to making sure that we get to those 20% numbers. And in fact, I think that's a low number. I think this district is capable of much more than that. So I'll be my normal self and put the pressure on to do as good a job as we can with the investment we're going to make.
Any further comments from the board? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it, motion passes. The next item is item 14.6. Ms. McGrath, did you want a motion to table 14.6 and 14.7, is that correct?
Yes. I move that we table 14.6 and 14.7.
Ms. McGrath motions to table 14.6 and 14.7. Is there any objection?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gutierrez.
The term table, I'm not sure what the intent is. The intent to hold these over
Yes.
for the next meeting?
Yes.
Because the term table and the Masons would relegate these to almost untouchable status.
I knew that.
Of course you did.
And
you wanted it done that way. But if the intent of the rest of us is to set these aside until the next meeting, then I think that the motion ought to be that we hold these.
Mitchell Lasota, could you address the comment, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, the motion hasn't been seconded, but if the motion to table passes, it can still go on the next agenda, just as anything else is put on the agenda pursuant to the same rules. So it would not be an indefinite limbo period for this. It would be subject to the same rules as any other item, but it could go right back on the next agenda.
I question whether that's an accurate ruling. You can come back on the next agenda, but not in this form.
We need to vote on it.
We have no objections. Just give us a second.
I second Mrs. McGrath's
Second.
motion to table 14.6 and 14.7.
All in favor of tabling 14.6 and 14.7, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it. Motion to table 14.6 and 14.7 passes. Next item of business is 16.1. Approve rescission of delegation of Chancellor Approval Authority employee policies. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that you want a discussion or do we actually, we need a motion?
We'll start with the motion.
Oh, I move to discuss the rescission of delegation of Chancellor Approval Authority employee policies.
Move to approve. Move to approve.
I move to approve the rescission of delegation of Chancellor Approval Authority employee policies.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Discussion of the board. There is no discussion. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it, motion passes. 16.2, can I have a motion, please?
I move, we're discussing this, right? I move to approve the implementation of rescission of delegation to the Chancellor to improve employee policies.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Board discussion? There's no discussion. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it, motion passes. Next item is 17.1, review employments and separations. Vice Chancellor Shelton, would you care to comment on this action item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. These are the employment numbers for the period of May this year. We had a total of 32 new hires and 69 separations.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Item 18.1, review budget analysis report. Vice Chancellor Murphy, would you care to comment?
Thank you, Mr. Hendricks, board members, Chancellor, CEC, and others. I'm happy to report that the 11 months of fiscal year 2016-17 have passed, that both revenues and expenditures are within projected ranges. We've maintained our financial stability requirements, and we expect to end the year with positive balance.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. Governing board reports, Dr. Thor?
No report.
Mr. Saar?
In the last several months, we've had a lot of places that we've gone, and I want to thank a lot of individuals who have taken the time to meet with me on several different issues, and I look forward to taking the next month off.
Ms. Haver?
I don't need to speak, but I'm also looking forward to taking the next month off.
Mrs. Livingston?
Have a very happy break.
Ms. McGrath?
No report.
Mr. Gutierrez?
No report.
I'll follow along with no report as well. External community reports, Arizona Association of Governing Boards, Mr. Gutierrez?
No report.
Arizona School Boards Association, Mr. Sarr.
No report.
Association of Community College Trustees, Mr. Sarr.
Yeah, I've got a report. I'm on a committee for ACCT. It's made up of members of their board in the past. I'm one of those. And we are the committee that looks at the future of what ACCT should be looking toward in serving their members. And in the last 2 months, we've been spending a lot of time and a lot of great discussion on the subject of artificial intelligence and how it's going to affect the way that we educate our students. I've had several conversations with the faculty members about this, and I'm deluging members of the board and others to look at this particular issue because it's going to impact this entire organization within the next 5 to 10 years. I don't know if you had a chance to see 60 Minutes Sunday night. They had a rerun of a whole issue on artificial intelligence. But the point I want to make, and I want to challenge our faculty association, the RFP is going to be based on where we see, as far as ACT is concerned, how we deliver instruction. And our RFP is not conducive to making those kind of changes. So I challenge our faculty association to look at the RFP and look at it in terms of the future, making sure that we are able to adjust to the new technology that's going to be out there, and that we make sure that our students can take advantage of those new technologies and make this institution one of the best in keeping up with what our students are going to demand from us in the future.
Thank you. Next meeting dates, there will be a meeting on August 8th, and there'll be a meeting on August 22nd. Contrary to what's listed, we haven't worked out exactly what the meetings are going to be or what times they're going to be, but we'll notify everybody when we have that. I get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.